They paid her $6 million and then secretly built the entire offense to make sure she never touched the ball. What you are about to find out is not a theory. It is not a rumor. It is documented. It is on film, and by the end of this video, you will never look at the Indiana Fever the same way again. Stay locked in, because the most damaging reveal in this entire story doesn't come until the very end, and when it hits, it is going to change everything you thought you knew about what is happening inside that locker room. Before we go any further, if you are new here, hit that subscribe button right now and turn on the bell notification. This channel is the only place giving you the real story behind the WNBA headlines that every other channel is too scared to touch. Subscribe now. You do not want to miss what's coming. Let's set the scene. Indiana Fever, a road game against the Dallas Wings, a team that had lost 8 of their last 11 games. A team that, on paper, the Fever should have handled with ease. Final score, Dallas Wings 91, Indiana Fever 85. But the loss is not the story. The loss is just the moment when everything that had been building behind closed doors finally exploded onto a national stage, in front of cameras, in front of fans, and in front of the entire sports world. Because what happened on that court was not a bad night. It was not a shooting slump. It was not fatigue. What happened in Dallas was an orchestrated collapse, and the evidence is sitting right there in the box score, in the film, and in the body language of every single person on that sideline. Let's go through this piece by piece, because the details matter. From the opening possession of the game, the strategy was set. Not a strategy to win, not a strategy to maximize this team's best offensive weapon. The very first play of the game, the very first one, was drawn up entirely for Kelsey Mitchell. Caitlin Clark executed the play perfectly. She delivered a clean bounce pass. Mitchell attacked the corner, got fouled, and went to the free throw line. On the surface, that looks like smart basketball. But watch what happened next. The next play for Mitchell. The play after that for Mitchell. The entire first quarter run through Mitchell. The entire first half designed around feeding one player, one option, one lane. For the first 3 quarters of that basketball game, there was not a single pick and roll or ball screen run for Caitlin Clark. Not one. They ran the first one with 15 seconds left in the second quarter. Think about what that means. You have the most dynamic playmaker in modern basketball. A player who generates offense not just through her own scoring, but through the gravity she creates for everyone around her. And your coaching staff built a game plan that specifically made sure she could not get into a rhythm. That is not incompetence. Incompetence is random. What happened in Dallas was deliberate. Now let's talk about something that has been happening game after game after game, and it needs to be called out directly. Aliyah Boston is operating on a contract that pays her like one of the elite big women in this league. With that money comes an expectation. You play at the highest level. You set physical screens. You create contact. You do the dirty work that opens up your guards. What has she actually been doing? Multiple times throughout this Dallas game, Clark would initiate a handoff sequence, the exact kind of play that is designed to generate easy offense. Boston would begin moving toward her, and then at the last second, she would cut away and send the ball directly to Mitchell instead. This happened more than once. It happened with a pattern, and when Clark was the ball handler, Boston repeatedly failed to set screens with any physical presence, leaving Clark exposed to aggressive defensive contact with no protection. Dallas defenders were essentially committing fouls on Clark on the perimeter with no consequence, because Boston was not there to make them pay for it. And on the other end, Jessica Shepard, a Dallas forward, walked into the paint and dominated Boston repeatedly. 26 points, 8 rebounds. Boston had no answer. None. Clark was simultaneously getting no help on offense and watching the interior get carved up on defense. A $6 million investment should not produce that result. Here is the moment that tells you everything you need to know about where Caitlin Clark's head was by the middle of the second quarter. She stopped looking for screens. Not because she forgot the playbook, not because she was confused. She stopped looking because she already knew they were not coming. She had processed the reality of the situation in real time. The offense was not being run for her. The ball was not coming back when she gave it up. And every drive she attempted was met with physical contact and no offensive support. So she checked out. The most competitive player on that roster, a player who came into this league with an insane amount of fire and drive, mentally disconnected from the offense in the second quarter of a game the Fever needed to win. You can see it on film. The body language shifts completely. She stops cutting. She stops demanding the ball. She drifts to the perimeter and watches the play happen around her. And that is when you know the situation has crossed a line that is very hard to come back from. Let's look at the numbers, because numbers do not lie. Caitlin Clark, 10 points on 4 of 15 shooting, 2 of 8 from 3, 1 free throw attempt, 9 assists, 4 rebounds, 1 free throw attempt. In an entire basketball game. That number is the most telling stat of the night. Clark is aggressive. Clark attacks. When Clark is playing her game, she gets to the free throw line. 1 attempt means she was never in a position to be aggressive, and by the time she tried to force the issue in the third quarter, the rhythm was already gone. Compare that to Kelsey Mitchell. 37 points, 9 of 18 from the field, 15 of 15 from the free throw line. 15 attempts. Mitchell played well. Give her credit. She competed and she scored. But look at what happened to everyone else when the entire offense was funneled through one player. Sophie Cunningham, 0 for 4 from 3. Not because she cannot shoot. She is a reliable outside shooter. She went 0 for 4 because by the time she touched the ball, the clock was almost gone and she had 0 rhythm. Monique Billings, a non-factor, completely invisible. An offense built entirely around one player does not just hurt the star being ignored, it destroys the flow for every single person on the roster. Everyone loses their timing, everyone loses their confidence, and the team loses the game. Now here is where this story gets much darker, and I need you to stay with me because what the front office is dealing with right now is not just about one bad game. Keep watching. Late in the second half, with the game slipping away, Stephanie White approached Caitlin Clark during a dead ball situation to deliver more instructions. Clark raised both hands in the air and turned her back. She walked to the far end of the bench. She did not look at White. She did not engage. She was done. The sideline went completely silent. That moment was seen across the entire sports world within hours. And it was not a spontaneous emotional reaction. It was the result of weeks of accumulated frustration finally reaching a breaking point in a moment that could not be hidden. What makes this even more significant is what Clark has been doing at every post-game press conference before this. She has been professional. She has been diplomatic. She has defended the coaching staff. She has talked about growth and process and team. She has been absorbing everything privately and representing the organization publicly with class. And then she turned her back. When a player with that level of professionalism reaches the point where she will not even face her head coach on a national broadcast, the situation has crossed into genuinely serious territory. Let's be fair and look at this from every angle. White came into this job with a mandate to develop this young team and build around Clark's generational abilities. That was the assignment. That was why she was hired. But the evidence from this game, and from the games building up to it, suggests that White has been running an offense that systematically reduces Clark's involvement when it matters most. Was this intentional? Was it tactical philosophy? Was it an attempt to develop other players on the roster? Those are questions the front office needs to answer right now. Because the outcome, regardless of intent, is the same. The most valuable player in this organization is being neutralized by the coaching system that is supposed to be unlocking her. On camera, White was repeatedly shown giving Clark intense, detailed instruction during dead ball situations throughout the game. But those sideline conversations were not translating into plays called for Clark. There is a massive gap between what was being communicated verbally and what was actually being executed on the floor. That gap between words and actions is exactly what breaks trust in a professional sports organization. Here is what makes this loss even harder to accept. The Dallas Wings came into this game having lost 8 of their last 11 games. They were struggling. They were inconsistent. On paper, this was a game the Fever should have been positioned to win. Instead, Arike Ogunbowale scored 32 points, consistently exploiting the Fever's disjointed defensive rotations. Jessica Shepard posted 26 points and 8 rebounds, making 10 of 11 shots in the first half alone. Dallas played with complete cohesion. They played as a unit. Every rotation connected. Every player trusted their role. Indiana played as 5 individuals who were watching the situation fall apart around them and could not stop it. The contrast was not subtle. It was the difference between a team that trusts its system and a team that has stopped believing in what is being asked of them. When a losing team beats you by 6 because your internal dysfunction is worse than their talent deficit, that is a 5-alarm emergency for the front office. I need you to stay with me through this next section, because what we are about to get into is the organizational picture, and this is where the real consequences live. Do not tap out now. Let's talk about what ownership is sitting with right now, because this is not just a coaching problem. This is a franchise-defining moment. Caitlin Clark is not just a basketball player. She is the reason television ratings for this league have surged. She is the reason arenas are selling out. She is the reason brands are paying attention to the WNBA in ways they never have before. She is a once-in-a-generation asset, and right now, that asset is being managed in a way that is producing visible, public, documented dysfunction. The front office has to make a decision, and they have to make it quickly, about whether the current structure is capable of putting Clark in a position to succeed. Because here is the reality. If this continues, the consequences are not just a bad season. The consequences are the potential loss of the most important player this franchise has ever had. And in a league where star power is directly tied to revenue, attendance, and media rights, that is an existential organizational failure. The pressure is real. The timeline is short, and the decision cannot be delayed any longer. Let's address this directly, because Mitchell deserves credit, and this situation is not entirely her fault. Kelsey Mitchell is a legitimate scorer. What she did against Dallas, 37 points, 15 of 15 from the line, that is a remarkable individual performance. She competed. She executed. The problem is not Mitchell. The problem is that you cannot build a functional offense around 2 high-usage guards who are operating in completely separate philosophical systems. Mitchell's game and Clark's game can coexist, but only if the coaching system is designed to integrate them, not to prioritize one at the direct expense of the other. What has been happening over recent games is not integration. It is a hierarchy. And when the hierarchy is built against the player who generates the most offensive gravity, the whole thing collapses. The front office will eventually be forced to make a structural decision about this backcourt. That moment is coming sooner than anyone is comfortable admitting. Sophie Cunningham deserves a mention here, because her situation reflects exactly what happens when an offense loses its balance. Cunningham is a legitimate shooter. She is physical, she competes. She is the kind of player who thrives when the offense is moving, and she can get clean looks off natural ball movement. Against Dallas, she went 0 for 3 from three-point range. Not because she played poorly, because by the time the ball found her, the shot clock was dying and her rhythm was completely gone. An offense that is designed around feeding one player inevitably collapses the spacing and timing for every shooter on the perimeter. Cunningham is a victim of the same system failure that neutralized Clark. If this organization gets its offensive structure right, Cunningham becomes a serious weapon. Right now, she is being wasted alongside the very player who could make her the most dangerous shooter on this roster. We are getting close to the part of this story that no one else is talking about, and it directly affects where Caitlin Clark plays basketball next. Stay with me. Here is where we have to be honest about the future. The Indiana Fever have a decision to make before the off-season window opens. And the decision is not as simple as firing a coach or trading a player. The decision is about whether this organization has the infrastructure, the vision, and the leadership to build around a generational talent, or whether they are going to continue making decisions that work against their own best interest. Clark has been professional through all of this. She has shown up. She has competed. She has not gone to the media to air grievances. But what happened on that Dallas sideline was a signal that even her patience has limits. The WNBA landscape is about to evolve significantly. Expansion is coming. Money is moving. The entire league is in a moment of transformation. And the teams that are positioned to win in that new environment are the ones that have locked in their stars and built genuine infrastructure around them. Indiana has the star. The question is whether they are willing to do what it takes to keep her, not just on the roster, but genuinely engaged, supported, and committed to this organization. If the answer to that question is not a decisive yes, the consequences are going to be enormous. For the franchise, for the fan base, and for the entire trajectory of what this team could have been. Let's zoom out for a moment and look at what this situation really represents for the WNBA as a whole. The league is at an inflection point. Ratings are growing. Attention is real. Corporate investment is coming in at levels that were not imaginable 5 years ago. The entire sports media landscape is starting to take women's basketball seriously in a way it never has before. A massive part of that growth is directly connected to one player and the audience she has brought with her. When that player is being undermined by internal dysfunction in her own organization, when the story that dominates the national conversation is not about her brilliance, but about the system working against her, it does not just hurt the Fever. It creates a narrative that hangs over the entire league. The WNBA needs Indiana to get this right. The fans need Indiana to get this right. And most importantly, Caitlin Clark deserves an organization that is fully committed to putting her in a position to win. Right now, that is not what she has. Here is where we land. What happened in Dallas was not a single bad game. It was the visible collapse of a system that has been under pressure for weeks. It was the moment when every tension, every frustration, and every unresolved conflict inside that locker room became impossible to hide from the cameras. The coaching staff ran an offense that neutralized the most explosive player on the roster. The front court failed to provide the screens and physical presence required to protect and create for their star guard. The team's internal hierarchy produced a box score that looks like one person's highlight reel and everyone else's nightmare. And in the process, Caitlin Clark turned her back on her head coach on national television. That image does not go away. That moment does not get smoothed over at a press conference. That is a fracture. The Indiana Fever have a very short window to address what is happening inside this organization before the consequences become permanent. The talent is there. The potential is there. But potential without the right structure is just wasted time. And Caitlin Clark does not have unlimited patience for a system that is working against her. The next move belongs to the front office. The entire basketball world is watching. And so are we. If this video opened your eyes to what is really going on inside the Indiana Fever, hit the like button right now. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Tell me, do you think the Fever front office actually fixes this, or is this already too far gone? And if you are not subscribed yet, do it right now. This channel does not do surface-level takes. We go deep, we go real, and we are not stopping. Subscribe and stay locked in because the next video is going to hit even harder than this one.